As the sun sets and the heat subsides, your hand instinctively reaches for the watering can or hose. It seems so right, so logical, to give your plants a much-needed drink after a long day. But what if I told you that this familiar evening ritual is one of the biggest mistakes that could slowly but surely destroy your garden or houseplants? Do not water your plants in the evening until you've watched this video to the very end. Today, we're going to dive deep into why evening watering can be genuinely dangerous, and you'll uncover the ultimate secret to plant health that might have been kept from you. On the surface, it all makes perfect sense. In the evening, there's no scorching sun, meaning that precious moisture won't evaporate as quickly, allowing it to truly soak in and reach the roots. Sounds like the ideal plant care plan, right? But this seemingly flawless logic hides a crucial flaw. Plants, just like us, operate on their own daily rhythms. Nighttime is their period of rest and recovery, not active water absorption. By watering them at night, we disrupt this natural cycle. So let's dive into the details and tackle the very first, and perhaps most insidious, threat of evening watering. Imagine the perfect conditions for your worst enemy, a cozy, damp, warm spot where nothing bothers them. Sounds pretty unsettling, right? Well, that's precisely the environment you create for fungal diseases when you water your plants at night. The main secret is this: when plant leaves and stems remain wet throughout the long night, they transform into a true incubator. The sun, our primary ally against pathogens, has already set. It can't dry the water droplets. The wind, as a rule, calms down. And just like that, an immobile, damp environment settles on the leaves and soil surface for 8, 10, or even 12 hours. This is precisely that 5-star hotel for fungi. Let's meet some of the most infamous guests checking into this hotel. First up is powdery mildew. This white or greyish flour-like coating is surely familiar to many. It absolutely loves settling on cucumbers, zucchini, roses and phlox. By covering the leaf, the fungus hinders photosynthesis, drains the plant of its vital sap, and slowly kills it. And often, night moisture is the very starting point for its destructive development. The next dangerous guest is late blight, or Phytophthora. This is a true scourge for tomatoes and potatoes. If you've ever seen healthy plants covered in brown spots, with fruits blackening and rotting in just a few days, that's its doing. Late blight spores are incredibly active, especially in cool and humid weather. Watering your plants over their leaves in the evening is like rolling out a red carpet straight to your harvest for this disease. But that's not all. There's also grey mould, which absolutely loves strawberries, grapes and many flowers. It appears as a fuzzy grey coating and can destroy berries right on the bush. And then there's anthracnose, rust, various leaf spots. The list goes on and on. All these diseases share one critical trait. They thrive on moisture that doesn't dry for hours. Understand this. The spores of these fungi are practically everywhere. In the soil, on plant debris, in the air. They're just waiting for their moment, and a single drop of water on a leaf, left overnight, becomes their home, their transportation, and their launching pad for invasion. While your plant sleeps, the spore germinates and penetrates the leaf tissue. In the morning, you might not notice a thing, but the destructive process has already begun. You'll only see the problem a few days later when the first spots appear on the leaves. By that point, however, fighting the disease becomes much, much harder. Prevention is absolutely key here, and avoiding evening watering is the simplest, most effective step you can take in that prevention. You simply deny the enemy the opportunity it's so eagerly waiting for. Let's move on. But if you thought the main danger only lurked on the leaves, then prepare yourselves. We're going underground into the realm of roots. This is where evening watering delivers its second, invisible, but often fatal blow. Problem number 2, root suffocation and rot. Let's imagine what happens in the soil after you've generously watered it at night. The sun sets and the ground quickly cools. During the day, under warm rays, excess moisture evaporates from the surface and the plant actively absorbs water and releases it through its leaves. There's a constant cycle. But at night, everything slows down. Temperatures drop, evaporation practically stops, and the plant enters a resting phase, consuming very little water. So what happens? All the water you poured stays in the soil. It fills all the tiny pores and air pockets between soil particles. And now, here's the crucial point many forget. Roots breathe. Yes, they vitally need oxygen, which they get precisely from these air pores in the soil. Oxygen is essential for all life processes, for nutrient absorption, and for growth. When you drench the soil at night, you're essentially flooding the roots. The water displaces all the air. For several hours, the roots find themselves in an anaerobic or oxygen-deprived environment. They literally start to suffocate. Imagine being locked in a stuffy room with no ventilation. That's roughly what the roots experience. This state is a huge stress for the plant. But that's not all. Moist, cold, and oxygen-deprived soil is an ideal breeding ground for another group of pathogens, soil-borne fungi and bacteria that cause root rot. Roots weakened by lack of oxygen become easy prey for them. The pathogens attack the delicate root tissue, which becomes soft, brown, or black, turning into a mushy pulp. Healthy roots are white and firm. Diseased ones are dark and limp. The most insidious thing about root rot is that it develops silently. Above ground, you might not see any problems for a long time, but underground, a destructive process is already underway. The first signs you'll notice are yellowing of lower leaves, wilting of the entire plant even when the soil is moist, and stunted growth. But by the time these symptoms become obvious, a significant portion of the root system has already died. And saving such a plant is often very, very difficult. So, in an attempt to water your plant at night, you deprive it of the ability to breathe and open the gates to a deadly disease. It's truly like forcing someone to sleep in a cold, wet bed. The outcome will be predictably unfortunate. But the threats don't stop there. Even if your plants are lucky enough to avoid fungus and root rot, evening watering sets them up for another, very unwelcome encounter. Essentially, every time you water your garden beds at sunset, you're sending out a loud, enticing dinner invitation to an entire army of uninvited guests. And the main culprits, slugs and snails. Let's delve into their lifestyle. These nocturnal gourmands absolutely love damp, cool environments. Their soft, slimy bodies can't tolerate dryness or the heat of the day, so during daylight hours they hide away in shady, secluded spots. But as soon as the sun sets, and you generously water your garden beds, you create the perfect conditions for them. Moist soil and wet leaves act as both a superhighway and a shield against drying out. They can move freely without the risk of dehydrating, and so, under the cover of darkness, they begin their destructive raid. They glide across damp leaves and soil, making their way to the juiciest and most tender parts of your plants. You've probably noticed those characteristic, irregular holes on hosta or cabbage leaves, haven't you? Or perhaps a bite taken out of that ripish strawberry you were planning to pick first thing in the morning. Often, that's their handiwork. Young lettuce sprouts, delicate seedlings, basil. These are true delicacies for them, which they can decimate in a single night. And the most frustrating part is that in the morning, all you see is the aftermath of their feast, chewed up leaves, spoiled fruits, and perhaps those telltale silvery trails of dried slime. The culprits themselves have long since hidden away from the sun and daytime heat, leaving you baffled. You might blame beetles, caterpillars, anyone else, without even realizing that you yourself, the evening before, created the perfect staging ground for these pests to attack. So remember this, abundant evening watering is a direct path to increasing the slug and snail population in your garden. You're literally feeding them and helping them multiply. By stopping nighttime watering, you'll create a natural, yet highly effective barrier for them. A dry soil surface is like scorching sand to them. Moving across it is difficult, unpleasant, and dangerous. And they'll very likely choose to seek their dinner somewhere else, in a more hospitable and damp location. It's a simple, yet incredibly powerful way to protect your harvest without using chemicals. And now for the crucial part, the game changer that shifts everything. You watered your plant in the evening. It looks fresh, water droplets glistening beautifully on its leaves under the soft evening light. You feel like you've done everything perfectly, but at this very moment you've initiated an invisible yet destructive process. At night, temperatures drop. The water on the leaves and in the topsoil doesn't evaporate. It remains there for 8, 10, or even 12 hours. This is the perfect storm for diseases. Moisture, coupled with darkness and cool temperatures, creates a paradise for pathogens. Fungal spores, which are always present in the air and soil, find the ideal conditions to awaken and begin attacking your plant. Meanwhile, its roots are quite literally suffocating in the cold, wet soil. So in your effort to help, you're inadvertently creating a deadly threat with your own hands. And the most insidious part? You won't see the problem immediately. It develops slowly, and by the time you notice yellowing leaves or a grey film, it might already be too late. So, when should you water? The ideal time to water your plants is early morning. This gives them the entire day to absorb the necessary moisture, and any excess on the leaves and in the soil will have plenty of time to dry under the sun before the cool night sets in. Morning watering energizes your plants for the whole day. Thank you for watching this important video all the way to the end. If you learned something new, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more easy plant care tips. Now, a question for you. What time do you usually water your plants? And have you ever noticed any of the problems we discussed today? Share your experiences in the comments below.